In this video, we're going to be talking about the Akashic Records today, and I guess it's going to be more of a Akashic Records for beginners because I'm certainly no expert, but fortunately, I have an expert along with me today in Eri Gaeta.
Oh, that was
Is
fancy.
that good?
Yeah, you could say Gata if you want.
What's that?
Say Gata if you want, but you could say it the fancy way.
I like the fancy way. I like the fancy way. Yeah, so Ari's going to be our psycho spiritual guide today as we talk about the Akashic Records. But we'll get to her and that in a second. I'm Jay Eaker from the BioSoul Integration Center in Louisville, Colorado, and I help people embody their soul's gifts and their soul's essence so they can share those gifts on the planet. So if you like this video, if you please hit the like button, and if you please subscribe to my channel on YouTube, that's very helpful, and share this with anyone who might be you think might be interested. And you can do all that social stuff wherever you might find this on social media, YouTube, Instagram. This will go out in a podcast form, so you can find it wherever you listen to your podcasts, and you can find it there too. And I just recently wrote a book, if you can believe that, called "If It Didn't Hurt: How to Resolve Your Pain and Discover Your Life's Purpose." So it's really a sort of ultimate guide to embodying your pain's wisdom and expressing your soul's gifts and your soul's essence. And so you can find that on Amazon, but if you go to my website, biosoulintegration.com, you can get a $2 to $3 discount as compared to buying it on Amazon. And also there you can, if you're not quite ready to buy it, you can get the first chapter for free if you're interested. So check that out. Okay, so Eri, Eri Gaeta.
Close.
Close? That's not it? Gaeta?
I grew up with everyone saying Gata, which just doesn't sound very nice, but
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
That's not the real deal though. That's like the Americanized version, isn't it?
it
What's
kind of
the
sounds like cookie in Spanish,
it
which is like
what?
in Spanish how you say cookie is like galleta, which
Oh,
so sounds like cookie in Spanish.
that's cool. I like that. Cookie. Okay. So yeah, I had a Akashic reading, what Ari calls a soul session the other day, and that's kind of what prompted this conversation with Ari, and wanted to talk about the Akashic Records. So first of all, Ari, I want you to tell people how they can get a hold of you right off the bat,
Okay.
whether your website. Yeah, tell people how they can get a hold of you first of all.
Real easy. My best place to get in touch with me is my website. It's just Eri, Eri, and then my last name, GAETA.com. And I don't have any social media, which is a little bit, I always feel like I'm like coming out of the closet. you know?
That is
um,
unorthodox. I tried to find you on Facebook, and you have a Facebook account, and
oh,
I actually and I friended you there, but I noticed like you don't. The last time you did anything on Facebook was like in 2013 or something.
I don't have a professional. I just have it
Uh-huh.
to look at some groups or whatever. But yeah, I
Right.
don't. But yeah, my website is great.
Cool. And yeah, they'll find your all the information that they need on your website, whether they need to call you or email you or whatever. Great. And so you're a psychotherapist, is that true? What are your
Psychotherapist.
your credentials?
Yeah, so I'm a psychotherapist. I've had a private practice for probably 6 or so years. Before that, I worked in a cancer center. So I
Mm,
did somatic therapy with mostly people who had already gone through cancer
mm,
treatment and were still wondering why their systems were stuck in fight or flight.
mm.
A lot of it was like, well, now I'm in remission, so shouldn't I just feel amazing?
Mm.
Their nervous system were really stuck
Yeah,
at being in survival. So I did a
of
lot of
course.
that work for a while before I just did things on my own.
Wow, that sounds kind of intense. You get some life experience, some psychotherapy experience there.
Yeah, it was anytime I told anyone I worked at a cancer center, like if I was at a dinner party, it was just not a good. Everyone like,
Yeah, right.
um,
Some light conversation there.
but it actually taught, yeah, it taught me so much about. At the time, I was really immersed in. I'm trained in something called somatic experiencing,
Okay.
and at the time, I was really doing that work. So it taught me a lot because I was like, sort of like watching people's nervous systems try to recalibrate from going through the trauma of being
Mm,
sick.
hmm
It's really interesting.
mm,
It was good for me at the
right.
time.
Yeah, that's a big trauma on a person's system on a number of levels,
Yeah.
physically, chemically,
Yes.
emotionally, mentally. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then how did you get into, how did you, I noticed on your website that you have sort of a bunch of different things that you kind of maybe incorporate into your work. How did you get into this more sort of psycho spiritual? I like how you called yourself a psycho spiritual guide.
Yeah.
Uh, I like that.
It
But
took,
how'd you get into that kind of end of things, and how long have you been doing that?
so I think it was in, well, when I was doing the somatic experiencing work, there was there was something spiritual about that work. It's like
Mm,
I went to social work school. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. When I graduated, I was like, I don't know why did I do this? This kind of moment. I was like, I know this is leading me somewhere, but I don't know where it's leading me.
right.
And I got introduced to somatic experiencing. And then I was like, oh, this is why
Mm,
so that was so different than regular talk therapy.
mm-hmm,
Working with energy was working with um, like responses in the body,
mm-hmm,
watching, working with resonance. So I
mm,
was all this really interesting stuff. At the time, I wouldn't have said it was spiritual, but it
mm,
was.
mm.
Wasn't
Absolutely.
I wasn't in that mindset yet.
Yeah.
And then I met a fellow therapist one day, and I was renting an office from her, and she had said to me maybe less than a month after we met, she was like, "Oh, me and my husband are teaching this class on something called the Akashic Records," and I said. She said, "Do you want to do it?" I had no idea what she was talking about, but I was like, it sounded like she was talking another language. I said, "Sure, where is it?" And she said, "It's at my house." So I went. It was a weekend at her house,
Mm-hmm,
and they led us in this what they call like an attunement. People who
mm-hmm,
are taking training know what an attunement is. Um, and you sort of get attuned to the accessing the Akashic realm.
mm-hmm,
So we did that, and then we did readings for each other. And I was like, holy shit, like I love this. Like this
mm,
is a thing. And so I started to experiment, like with friends, I would give readings, and with some clients that I thought would be into it, I would
mm-hmm.
be like, hey, I learned this.
Testing the waters there.
Yeah. And
Uh-huh.
yeah, so I started doing that. Probably it was like 2016, so
Mm-hmm.
long ago. And then I got as many of us did in 2020, I like got really into it
Mm.
because I was like, okay, now I finally have to make that a main thing that I offer. So
What was it
I
about 2020? You mean because of COVID or something?
I was just I was just I would usually go to a lot of trainings in person, like there.
Mm-hmm.
So those weren't happening.
Mm. Oh, right.
And then I was like, okay. And then I moved
Mm-hmm.
into Colorado.
Hmm. So it was a big transition in your life on maybe a number of levels there.
Yeah, it was huge. I
Something was calling you.
I did a quantum leap, and
Uh-huh.
and so I was like, okay, this spiritual work is where I feel the most me.
Right.
So I need to do the thing that I feel the
Mm.
most. So
Mm.
yeah, so now I'm like it's part of my life. I have clients that I'm readings for. I'd like to be even more of a part of my life.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're trying to lean more into that direction.
for sure.
Yeah. What was it about what I mean, what was it about that first encounter with that that sort of like lit you up? What was that?
That's a good question. It was like, it was like, well, I did a reading for someone at the first training I went to.
Mm-hmm. Gosh,
And
right off the bat, huh?
yeah, and I connected to her mother
Mm.
that had passed away. And I could basically, I was reading her mother's record through her.
Uh-huh.
And I was tuning into like how her mother died and like
Oh
how
wow.
couldn't use her voice
Oh.
before she died. She had some sort of, I don't know if it was like esophageal
Uh-huh.
cancer. And so I was feeling all of this energy in my throat that was like
Huh.
clamped up as if I couldn't talk. And I could see where she was sitting in her living room, like
Oh
before
wow.
she died. This girl's looking at me like I'm saying these, and the girl's like, yeah. And I'm like,
Oh
what's happening right now?
wow.
So I was getting messages from the mother
Uh-huh.
to give to her. And I had remembered that I had gone to see a medium. I think it was, I don't know, it was like 28 or something a while back. And the medium goes to me, you know, you can do this, right? And I was,
Apparently.
yeah, I was like, really? I had no idea. So in that moment, I was like, oh, wow, I could do this. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know what, but I could do this. And it was just so sweet because it was just so nice to be able to take a break
There was
from
no thinking involved. It just was happening. Yeah.
no thinking,
Yeah. Right.
effortless. And there's some
Mm-hmm.
attractiveness to me about effortlessness. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's really fun just
Right.
to be a channel, you know?
Yeah, there's definitely something about those times in life where there's that effortlessness. That's a sign that you're definitely hooking into something
My goodness, yeah.
important. Well, apparently you could do that. That's pretty crazy that right off the, like your first time trying it, you just were like downloading this stuff. I mean, and you had no idea that you could sort of do that. I mean, had you not in your past or something like had, I don't know, like, uh, yeah, have you not like as a kid or had some sense that you
Mm,
were connecting with another realm or that seems pretty crazy that just right out of the gate you were
I know, so weird.
downloading that stuff.
I wasn't surprised. Like I was surprised, but then there was a little,
Mm-hmm.
oh, right, like,
Right.
but when I was, no, it was, I was always an empath and I could feel
Mm-hmm.
the energy in the room, but that was because I grew up in a dysfunctional environment, so I had
Mm-hmm.
to survive that.
Mm-hmm.
So I was always sort of tuned in, but it was
Mm-hmm.
more at survival.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Right.
so, I can walk into a room and say like, okay, like, I know how these people are feeling right now. I know what
Mm-hmm.
vibe is here. I know if these
Mm-hmm.
people are doing, I can, all that I knew how to do,
Right.
but it was more, it was bred a little more from an anxiety than it was from an intuition.
Sure, sure.
So I didn't know yet when I was doing
Mm-hmm.
this reading for the first time. I didn't know how to hone my spidey senses
Right.
to like into an intuitive place.
Mm-hmm.
It was still coming from like self protection.
Right. That makes
Now
sense.
I'm really good at it now, but
Mm-hmm.
so when I was tuning into this girl and her mother that had passed away, it was like I didn't have any anxiety around it because it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
it was
Mm-hmm.
about her.
Right.
I
Right.
all of a sudden I saw like,
Mm.
oh, like I
And you were helping someone. You were like using that to so like
can
serve someone. So that seems like a key too.
totally. It
Mm-hmm.
changed. I was like, oh, I can use that thing I've always had,
Mm.
but I can
Mm-hmm.
transmute it into
Right.
a different thing. And that was interesting because I didn't know that for a really long time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like pick up negative energy for the rest.
Right. Right. Well, that's so cool that you were able to sort of, I mean, because I think that's probably a common experience where people have had trauma of some sort that I find that in the work that I do with folks that kind of trauma as a kid, it's like we spend a lot of time with our attention very acutely outside, trying to like, navigate the slightest, change in the people around us to sort of navigate any consequences that from their strangeness, or people, things that have happened to people that you find that it's easier to just like not spend so much time in your body. And there are gifts that you sort of can pick up. So it's nice that you were able to sort of uh, take those and turn it into your superpower.
Took a really long time, but
Yeah,
yeah.
right.
But
Yeah.
I need to like hear a couple things from some people and talk, like listen to things where people talked about that, because
Mm,
I didn't have any role models that were like,
mm,
oh hey, that empath thing, like that also means
mm,
like I didn't, nobody
mm,
said that to me. So it took a really long time to like
mm,
pick, oh, like
mm.
I'm in control of this,
How do you think that happened? How did you do that? Like for people who are in the same boat, like how do you think you did that?
I think it was like a two-step process. Like the first part was I had to calm my limbic brain. I had to
Hmm.
do a lot of calming.
Mm.
If
I mean,
the-
I'm kind of struggling like over time. Like, how did was that just a happy mistake that you sort of turned your, trauma into your superpower, or, um,
no, like yeah, it over time it really came from like calming down. I
okay.
know like I sort
Hmm.
of
Oh,
turning,
this is like something you kind of learned how to do
yeah.
to navigate your world. Hmm. Okay.
Yeah, so it was like I was intentionally trying to calm my survival
Mm,
part of my brain.
mm,
And when I was doing that at over time, like through meditation, through
mm-hmm,
stuff like that, as that limbic part of the brain started calming down, um, the gift of
mm-hmm.
healing started pumping
Yeah.
up. So
Right.
like the anxiety or the
Mm,
survival was dimming, and the
mm-hmm,
whatever
mm-hmm,
helpful
mm,
sort of tuning in was bumping up. So it was
yeah.
really about like calming the F
Mm,
down.
yeah. Right.
Like helpful. Yeah.
You connected to a place where you were able to sort of like integrate that, then turn it into a gift. Cool.
Yeah.
Um, so what is the Akashic Records?
So the best way to describe it is
I want to see what you say, and I actually did a little research. I got on Wikipedia and I looked up the Akashic
okay.
Records.
The Akashic records are, you can say, like another dimension that is
Mm-hmm.
not a human dimension, it's a spiritual dimension. Some people call it like the Akashic realm. Some people
Mm-hmm.
call it like the Akasha. Some people say Akasha, which I don't know.
Mm, mm-hmm.
But and so this realm is like akin to, I always use the metaphor of a library because
Mm-hmm.
that's what they used when I did the attunement. But as if we're in this huge library and everybody in the world has a book
Mm-hmm.
with their name on it. And we walk into the library and I'm pulling the book out with your name on it.
Mm-hmm.
Opening it. And in that book is every life you've ever lived,
Mm-hmm.
every person you've ever been around, every
Mm-hmm.
intention you've ever had,
Mm.
every thought, every behavior. I mean, it's
All of
everything.
it.
Yeah. Um, and
It's like the spiritual NSA,
basically, like,
tracking all your
yes, that is it. And
movements.
the cool part about the Akashic records, which we could get into, but everything has an Akashic record. Every
Mm,
animal,
mm,
even your property, your house has a record.
mm-hmm.
I recently opened the record of the house that I just bought.
Oh, wow.
Oh my goodness, it was so interesting. Yeah. So you can open the record for a lot of
Huh.
things that have energy living in.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't have to be breathing.
So it's like really accessing the sort of life force energy that animates everything in
Yeah.
life, basically, and
Yeah.
extracting, I don't know, information out of the life force energy that's in everything.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So it's basically tapping into that. And what I love about it is there's in the Akashic Records world, they call it your masters, your teachers, and your loved ones.
Mm,
Well, and there's the lords of the records. These are like words you'll
Lords
hear.
of the Records.
The lords, the masters, the teachers, and loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and your masters, teachers, and loved ones.
This is wait a minute. These are. I mean, you hear you like the you tap. They're telling you this. You hear this stuff when you tap into the Akashic records, or
Yeah.
is this kind of like they told you when you were learning this, or no? That's stuff that you. Yeah. Okay.
Well, that's part of the whole, like, there's a spirit, everybody has a spiritual team.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
A spiritual team, my spiritual, everybody has a
Mm.
different team. And you're
Mm-hmm.
made up of your masters, your teachers, and your loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
And what that means is it's a collective. So when I'm doing a reading, I'm connecting with a collective energy. I can't tell you, oh, there's your grandma or there's so and so. It just feels like I know I'm talking to a group.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them are people that you've known in this life, and
Uh-huh.
some of them aren't. They're just spirit guides that are kind of like assigned to you.
Uh-huh.
And so what I'm doing is I am communicating with your masters, teachers, and loved ones
Mm.
about your soul's
Mm-hmm.
journey, purpose, what have
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you.
Are
So
these
that,
uh are these masters, teachers, and loved ones that are specifically associated with the Akashic records,
yes, that's
or do like all of your masters, teachers, and loved ones, your guides, have access to the Akashic records?
so that's an interesting question. I don't, if you talk to a person who's really only doing Akashic records, they might tell you it's just solely for the Akashic realm. Like
Mm-hmm.
masters, teachers, and loved ones are like hanging there, and everything else are like angels,
Mm.
other spirit guides. I don't really
Like
experience it that way. I sort of experience it like masters, teachers, and loved ones is just like this spiritual team. And I always feel them right here on the right side of my head. I don't know why, like right here. But
mm-hmm.
then when I'm doing readings, I can also tap into other spirit guides, other family members that have passed away, even people who are alive, their energy.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if I'm doing like straight up like Akashic record work because I'm
Mm-hmm.
melding something else, but I can tell the difference.
Mm.
So if there's a different spirit that guide that comes in, it feels different than this spiritual.
Mm. Hmm.
But as far as the Akashic records go, it is that spiritual team that is like that's
Mm-hmm.
who's heading the information.
You mean you do other work sometimes where you connect with other
Yeah,
non-Akashic record guides?
yeah, I can
Yeah.
feel the difference.
Oh,
Like always
interesting.
on my left, whereas this,
Huh.
I think
Huh.
it's so I can feel the difference. There's like a
Huh.
distinction. Yeah.
Interesting. Huh. So, it's not something necessarily I'm worried about, but something that people might worry about. Like, how do you know that they have your best interest in mind, this information that you're getting? I did a while back, well, actually, just like an experience that sort of opened me up in a major way. I don't know, this must have been like 10 years ago or more. I don't know. I was, I would go into this yoga studio in Louisville. Excuse me. And I just love this yoga teacher there. And on the back of her card, it said like shamanic journeying.
Oh
And I
yeah.
was like, at some point, I was like, oh, what is that? That sounds, in my previous, from where I come from, for the word shamanic, like automatically meant like Satan. And I
Uh,
would not have allowed myself, but something was changing in me. And I thought, oh, that sounds interesting. Let me check that out. And she came and to my house and sort of like set up we set up a space, and she took me on these shamanic journeys, and like I hooked up with these dudes. Um, and I tell my brother about this. My brother's like, "Well, how do you know? How do you know it's not like a hallucination?"
yeah.
But the thing is like I felt these guys, and I felt their love for me. I felt their love for me in a way that's like, this is totally real. They exist and they love me. I felt it. So I don't know. Uh, What's your?
Yeah. I mean, I've done a bunch of
Mm-hmm.
journeys. too.
Oh, and I should say too, I tried a journey on myself, and I connected with beings, but those beings were like, it was clear, like, yeah, you don't necessarily have my best interest in mind. You know, you're just, I think it had to do with the sort of space that she set up. You know, she sort of like consecrated the space and the stream of information or whatever that she did a good job of making it clear. And I tried to do it on myself, and I was like, it scared me anyway.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. The Akashic records are known to be like a loving space. That
Mm-hmm. Mm,
there's never anything dark.
mm,
It's just not a dark space. I'm sure if I would do a different kind of
mm-hmm.
channeling, I could probably get to a dark space. But for some reason, this is sort of how they
Mm-hmm.
and advertise it too. It's like this is a loving space. There's it's all, it's just the master teachers and loved ones are like all accepting,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like here to get you to listen to that
Right.
whisper
Mm.
inside
Can
that.
you feel that when you're? Do you have like a felt sense of this when you're connecting with them? Yeah.
So when I first start with everybody, as we did, I read a prayer.
Mm-hmm.
As I'm reading the prayer, I put your name in the prayer, and I can feel almost like it's really hard to explain. It feels like I have glitter all of a sudden
Mm.
all over my body,
Right.
like a glittery feeling, and I almost feel a little compressed. So it's
Mm.
like a little like this, but not in a
Mm-hmm.
bad way. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm sort of entering something else.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's all very loving. The only thing I'll say is that the the records are like the spiritual team, they kind of find humans to be a little bit silly or concerned with things that don't
Mm.
matter. Like they're so while it's very loving and everything, there is sort of a vibe sometimes of like, oh God, like you guys are just so something like I had a person do a reading with me who asked about their gender identity and how they were wondering what to do with that and they were having issues around it. And the records are a little like, that's fine. You can do whatever you want with your gender, but like it doesn't quite matter. Like
Right.
this around your gender is just to get you to evolve the next.
Sure.
Like they're kind of there's just a vibe of like, you guys got it.
You guys are crazy.
Yeah, right. Um,
You guys need help.
yeah, you guys got it all wrong. Um, so like I did a reading today and the person was asking about meeting somebody and wanting to meet a partner and feeling like she can't meet a partner. And they were like saying like, you got it all wrong. Like
Mm.
you have to meet the partner before you believe it's going to
Mm.
happen. Like you humans, like you need to believe it's going to happen
Mm.
before it happens. You have the equation wrong.
Mm.
So there's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of that, like,
Mm.
but that's as like snarky as it gets.
Mm.
It doesn't really get dark, but I'm sure, I went to psychic school for a little while, which was funny. I didn't even know that was a thing. I found out and I went. Um, and there was one girl in the class with me, and she would get the darkest readings,
Mm.
like horrible things, and she
Mm.
never came back after a couple weeks because
That makes sense.
dark down. I don't get that at all.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Um, so you call this a soul session. Why do you call it a soul session? Maybe like, what does it have to do with our soul? Maybe what is our soul?
So a lot of times after I do readings, people will say to me, "Oh, everything you just said to me, I kind of knew it
Mm.
somewhere,
Mm-hmm. Right.
but I haven't been listening to it."
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes people will not say that at all, but that's usually because they are more attached to their ego.
Mm.
Um, so the idea is that in a records reading, I am getting your soul's purpose, your soul's lessons you have to learn, evolution throughout your reincarnated
Mm.
life.
Mm-hmm.
So, the idea is that I don't know exactly what you believe, but from this perspective, we are living many lives. We are evolving and we have lessons we need to learn. If we don't sort of wrap them up in this one, they're going to continue to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
We have a soul purpose. We have many soul purposes. We don't only have one.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we're doing the readings, a lot of times it's like, what is the purpose of this life for you? What are you here to do? What lessons are you here to learn?
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have to ask about that. You can sort of stay superficial in the records, but for the most part, people like to
Mm-hmm.
figure out, am I on the right track or am I
Right.
not? And so I'll say to people, I did a reading with somebody today who is 45 and and does not have kids. And the records were like, so you might want to think about like adopting or doing something. And she was right. Like
Mm-hmm.
part of her has always
Right.
thought that, but
Mm-hmm.
her humanness never allowed
Mm-hmm.
her to do that because
Right.
um, so it's kind of speaking to whatever your essence, whatever's underneath all those ego parts.
And
Um,
that's what your soul is. I mean, that kind of makes sense to me. The your soul is like the part of you that, I mean, the work I do, I call it BioSoul integration. I have the sense that what we're here to do is kind of like integrate our soul's essence into our bodies and sort of be able to express that through our bodies on this planet. Like that's what we're trying to learn how to do here. But if I had to say like what the soul is, I'd say just a part of us that doesn't change, even that stays with us even if we change out of these bodies. Kind of like you said in my reading, you said of me that like I'm a uh, like a technician and a tinkerer or whatever, and I imagine I've been tinkering with things, whether it's like spiritual work that I do now or other things, a technician of sorts
yeah,
in previous lifetimes. Just as a quality that sort of stays with you.
right.
Uh huh.
Yeah, I think, when I'm doing a reading, the spiritual team, I get this sense for each person, it's a different energy around it, but I get this sense that, this team really knows this person's
Mm,
essence. Like they really understand this person's essence without all the worrying or the fears or the anxieties. Like, and I love doing it because I get a sense of the person too without all the junk, I'm going to call it junk, but like human around it.
right.
So, and what I have learned about the soul while doing these readings is that so many people are so much closer to accessing their soul's true nature than you think.
Right. It's right.
Um,
It's right in front of us. It's like more of sort of not. It's more of not trying than we're all trying so hard.
yeah, like
Yeah.
it's more accessible than you
Mm-hmm. Right.
maybe you wouldn't assume we're in touch.
Mm-hmm.
Um, right there. It's like
Mm-hmm.
I've heard people say like, yeah, well, that's the feeling I have deep, deep down,
Mm-hmm.
that maybe I don't listen to, or
Mm-hmm.
the feeling that I get a little nudge all the time about those things, but
Right.
but I make excuses or whatever it.
Mm-hmm. And so these readings kind of generally kind of give a voice to that part of them that maybe is kind of always behind in the back. For some people, maybe more in the background. It's always there. Gives a
Yeah,
voice. It gives a voice to that. So yeah, it's not. And I had that same sense, like, oh yeah, she's telling me things that, yep, I know that is a thing that yeah.
right, right.
So yeah, it's not uh yeah, it's sort of like, of course, I had that, like I did some silent meditation retreats, like these 10-day meditation retreats, and I had these like what you might call like a mystical experience, but uh, that experience was sort of like, it was like, of course, it's always, I could see how it's always right in front of your face, and there's just all sorts of things that we do to, to all sorts of layers of walls that we put up to not trust that stuff, or
Yeah, it's really
all
not
these walls of trying.
for sure.
Yeah.
That's why I love giving the readings because it's sometimes for people it's like a permission.
Sure.
Oh wait, I should start to listen to that.
Right, right.
So it's nice. Like I've seen people say, like, I did a reading for someone. This is kind of crazy. And the records told her that her anti-anxiety medication was doing nothing for her.
Mm.
And I was like, I'm not a
You're
doctor.
not
Like,
a doctor, right?
but months later, she got off of it. And because she realized like it was is literally not helping her at all. And she got off of it and it didn't make it. I don't know exactly what it felt like, but it wasn't.
Hmm.
She sort of saw that come to fruition that she was doing
Right.
something that wasn't
So
helping.
you did say that to her, or you didn't? You didn't because you're
No,
not a
I
doctor, or you did?
I was like, look, like,
Oh
yeah,
yeah, right,
I'm not a doctor, but I
right,
just tell you they're saying you're on a medication. It's not helping you.
right.
So yeah, it's interesting just to like um to sort of see people react
Hmm.
to something that's like in the background.
Hmm.
So they'll be like, oh right, like, and they're all their human parts are like, this is bullshit, or
Hmm.
don't, but you can't do that.
Right.
But
For this reason and that reason and this reason and that reason, right?
do you see like in your work, do you see people talking about this kind of thing, like listening to their like deepest desires and like finally going for it and stuff like that? Like, do you see people listening to like their souls?
Um, well, I feel like often it's my job to help, maybe just like you on some level, it's my job to help bring that stuff to the surface. And, with the work that I'm doing, often, people are, there's not as much talking going on. There's not as much maybe engagement with the mental thinking part of them so much. So, sometimes when I often do kind of a little, talk to people ahead of time, or, if they have an issue of some sort, often the those things kind of come to the surface in the thing that's bothering them, the issue that they have, whether it's a physical pain or a mental emotional pain, or whatever. As I start asking them questions, that often leads to these the place where you can sort of see like, oh well, this is what's calling you. And
Mm,
so,
right.
um, you know, yeah, that's what I want people to, as you're sort of peeling back the layers of their defenses in their body. Like that's what that stuff comes more and more to the surface. There's a physical you were just kind of talking about there's this part of us deep down or whatever that's kind of nudging us a certain direction, and then there's all these layers of conditioning that are on top of that, and there's this conflict between those parts, and that shows up in our bodies. And why that's why I would say there's people come to me with the back pain or whatever the physical stuff that it's because of this conflict that's in us, shows up physically, it shows up mentally, emotionally, shows up in all those ways. And as we start to sort of like do the work that I'm doing and release that conflict from their body, it's like actually both parts kind of have to get louder. It's like the part of them that their soul, the part of them that's calling for a certain thing, like that voice gets louder, but then also the other voices that are pushing against that also get louder too. So there's this process that has to happen of, it clarifies so they can see what's happening. Like, oh, this I see that my soul is calling me to. And then so that often that in certain stages of the process, that that conflict can actually get
Yes.
louder.
I
So,
totally agree with that. It's like a differentiation process. So you can
right.
find it. Yeah.
Yeah, it has to get clearer for them to, in order for them to choose, be able to choose the soul path. Because you start to see like, oh, I don't want to. Oh, I see these other stories that I've been telling myself, and how I've been choosing this other route, and I see maybe how that's not me. That's been coming from somewhere else, and so eventually, you see like, oh, I don't want to choose that anymore. I want to choose the other thing more often. Yeah.
Sometimes when I'm doing a reading and then the person takes it as almost a permission
Mm-hmm.
to listen in, I think to myself, okay, so if all of us had parents that were like, hey, you know that thing that's really calling you, like you
Mm-hmm.
listen to that.
Yeah.
Like if we
Right.
had permission from the beginning,
Yeah.
like what would our life have turned out to be? Like
Mm-hmm.
this is so interesting just to
Mm-hmm.
giving people permission
Sure.
when they're, when they're in their 40s, when they're in their 60s, and they're
Right.
like, oh, I can finally listen. Okay.
Yeah.
Like,
Right. Well, they have to take it upon them. They finally like have spent so many years fighting with it that they decide to, finally decide to listen. Yeah. I mean,
oh,
I think that's a parent's job on some level, is to really like, look at your child and say like, who are they? What direction are they leaning in? And like
right.
nudge them in that direction. Like, look, looks like this is what your gifts are. You should go for that.
I had a therapist, I don't know when this was, maybe like, what year is it? He's right. um, Maybe like 6 or 7 years ago. She's this incredible, incredible mastermind therapist.
Mm,
So freaking cool. She was such a risk taker,
mm,
and I loved it. And she was a somatic therapist, and one session she did something where she said, oh, I see it, I see that what you can do. And she had me, like, she sat right in front of me, and she looked at me and she said, tell me tell me what like my strengths are, tune
mm,
in.
mm,
And I was like, okay. And it was so emotional for me because she was a lot older than me, and I
mm,
felt
No one's ever done that.
no one's ever done this. She was like, I know what you could do. Do it. And I like
Mm,
closed my eyes and I like tuned into her and I told her like what her strengths are and like what
mm,
she's here to do. And this is before when I had just learned about the Akashic Records.
mm,
It was this like older woman who was like, I know your parents didn't pay attention to this.
mm,
Somebody needed to. So
mm,
do it. And
mm,
it was so liberating for me. I was like, holy shit. Like
mm.
he was he was a big part of like permission.
There's that
I
permission
allow
thing again. Yeah.
you can be weird. You could do this weird thing.
Mm,
Go ahead. You were born to do this. And she was like really, she was special like that. She was
mm,
very she was very like allowing and
mm,
very sit like right in front of you, like almost between your legs and
mm.
like really like head on shit.
Uh-huh.
And that was great for me just to have some adult, elder
Mm.
person really
To
gave me.
model that.
Yeah, so
Right.
more permission, I think, to we
Mm-hmm.
helping people like, hey, go ahead, be
Right.
you, but.
Right. Yeah. So if there are people out there who are thinking like, uh, I don't know if this Akashic record reading of a soul session is for me. Like, I don't know, what kind of information, or what kind of person, what kind of person, what kind of information is best from an Akashic reading or a soul session?
It could be a lot of things. It could be, people who want to make a career change,
Mm-hmm.
people who, the records are great for decision making. I've noticed
Mm,
very good for decision making. People who want to check in, people who feel lost or like they're
mm,
not supposed to be, like
mm,
physically and sort of figuratively. People who, um, people who have health issues.
mm,
That's a big one. We can get into like the origin of the health issues,
mm,
they're about. And even my favorite part is like to ask the records for action steps of what to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
All
Really, they give practical information like that. That's cool.
Yeah, I didn't
Mm.
know that like the first few years I was doing it. And then I was like, let me ask them. And then they're really, I get
Mm.
super amazing action steps
Mm.
from like,
That's super helpful.
right, my human brain would never come up with them, you
Right.
know. Um, Actually, I did a reading for a friend of mine, and they literally gave her the step-by-step like online course that she
Oh,
could create. I mean, it was
wow.
wild. She was like, I was like, here, they're telling you what to do. It's really yeah, people who are like, I want to do this, but I'm hesitating, or
Mm.
I don't know if this or this, or
Mm-hmm.
um, should I make this career move, or uh, why am I always doing this?
Mm.
People who know about patterns, how
Mm.
to get out of patterns, and what it's
Mm-hmm.
a lot about when people are stuck.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, yeah, I mean, anybody that wants to use spiritual guidance as a sort of like push off for
Mm-hmm.
go to the next thing.
Right.
Um, Really anything. I mean, you could literally ask like, why am I like, you know, why do I get sick every time I eat dairy? Like you can go like,
Right.
or you can say, how do I get out of this?
Right. Sounds like
Like
they're not judgmental about what kind of information you're
there's no
seeking.
there's no judgment about anything. It's
Right.
kind of in an area in an like energy with no
Mm-hmm.
judgment. Really nice.
Nice. Well, yeah, I mean, when we did our session, I really was, also what I really liked about it was I could uh, I could talk with you. I know I've had uh, some different work with like a medium, someone who is channeling someone, and it's like it's kind of weird because I'm like talking to some
Oh,
person with an accent from a long time ago or something. It's like I kind of just want to talk to the real person, but so it was really nice that it wasn't like you were channeling these guys or like became someone else or something. It was like you I got to hang out with Eri, and she was just giving me the information, and and I could interject with a question, and I don't know, it just was nice that I felt like I was talking to you too, like you're a very cool person, and you were very accessible, during the session too. So that
cool.
was that
I
was
like
really nice.
I like that aspect of it, that I don't have to go away necessarily
Mm-hmm.
away, but still
Mm-hmm.
on the side.
Right.
Just the messenger.
Sure.
I think it's helpful too because I've done a lot of readings for people who aren't necessarily into
Mm-hmm.
spirituality at all.
Mm-hmm.
But it actually helps
Yeah.
because I'm trying to like just keep it real.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah, you're good at that.
yeah, I'm not turning into some like unattainable like sort of
Mm-hmm.
creature.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like I'm from Brooklyn. I just sort of
Right.
like
Yeah, exactly.
just keeping
Right.
it. So a lot of times that's helpful for people because it eases them into this idea of like, oh, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking to your soul. So just
Mm-hmm. That's
like
great.
how,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's great.
want spirituality to feel accessible.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Mhm.
Well, is there anything else that you think would be useful for people to know or that I didn't ask about?
Yeah, I wanted to say one thing
Okay.
about
Yeah.
how it's different from a psychic reading.
Mm. Okay.
I think that gets confusing because a lot of people have gotten psychic readings, whether they're spiritual or not. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's part of our culture. I think, oh, we got a psychic reading one time, like on the street or whatever,
Right.
whatever. So what I love about the records is it kind of mimics, I don't know if people know anything about like string theory or like quantum
Mm.
mechanics, like,
Mm-hmm.
and so the idea is that it's not necessarily predictive. So in a psychic reading, they'd
Mm.
be like, you're gonna have two kids and their names are gonna be this and this.
Mm-hmm.
Records, it's more like they can predict something, but it's based on what is most likely to happen in the timeline that you are currently in.
Mm,
So
hmm.
it's
In the present moment.
correct. So it's
Hmm.
acknowledging free will. So
Mm,
I read this example. It was like some article about the Akashic Records once, and I read this example and I thought it was good. It was kind of like if you throw a fork at the wall, in most instances, the fork is going to hit the wall and then fall on the floor.
mm-hmm.
But like in some other dimension, it might like get stuck in the wall, and in
Mm-hmm.
another dimension, it might go through the wall. Like we
Mm-hmm.
don't. It's sort of like in most instances
Right.
hit it and go down. So the records is sort of like, okay, based on where you are right now, you just ask me a question and they're going to give you what is most likely to happen in this timeline. But if
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow you decide to like, I don't know, like dye your beard purple,
Mm-hmm.
run off to Hawaii, you just change the timeline. So
Right.
now we don't know. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a little different than a psychic reading.
Mm.
Um, in that it really recognizes free will. Because I've had
Mm-hmm.
psychics tell me a lot of things that never happened.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway,
Right.
I just like to say that because it's kind of interesting. It's like what it's like, oh wait, am I doing a psychic reading right
Right.
now? Not really. It's a
Right.
little more of an emotional, deeper, sort of soul level reading than
Uh-huh.
predictive, like you're gonna have this much.
Uh-huh.
It's not quite like
Right.
that.
How is it different from like shamanic work? Sounds like you did a little bit of that, and I've experienced some of that, and I felt similar on some ways. We were talking to to my masters, guides,
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, how is it different than shamanic readings or shamanic work, shamanic journeying?
Well, usually shamanic work is something that the client or the person experiences themselves.
Mm,
This is like I'm experiencing it.
mm-hmm.
I'm telling you.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I guess, well, actually, it's a good question. When I was doing the reading for you, were you experiencing anything or you were just receiving information?
I mean, I could feel like how you were describing like the sort of sense that you have in your body of the sort of like compression and like I could feel something, an energetic shift happening in me. But I was relying mostly on your. I mean,
Yeah.
I've gone there. I've done work like that. I probably could have sort of like tapped into my own, but I'm here to just you're the expert at tapping into the world, so I just let you do what you do. But
So
I
it
could
is,
definitely feel like, oh, I've just like stepped into a different zone.
yeah. So
Yeah, I
it's
could feel it.
in that respect, it's like I'm experiencing it. You're not
Hmm.
necessarily journeying. Um,
Hmm.
I'm also not using like in shamanic work, they go to like the lower realm or the upper.
Mm.
I'm
That's
not,
like classical shamanic
yeah.
stuff. But I mean, these guides that you're talking to, these people that you're talking to, I mean, that's like similar. Is it not?
It's similar for sure.
But they may be just they you may be different guides. Like you said, there's this Akashic Records specific guides, and then there's guides for other things.
I'm trying to get my next thing is that I'm trying to get more attuned to angels because I don't have any access to them. And I'm like, I know you're here. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm hopefully going to do something to this course thing that where at least so I could practice because
Mm-hmm.
I know I can feel it, but I can't, I'm
Right.
so oriented towards the records. But yeah, it's different than shamanic work, but it has similarities. Like
Sure.
everything's overlapping
Right.
as yeah.
Right. Cool. Well, yeah. Is there anything else that you feel like you want to mention that I haven't asked about?
I just want to say that everyone can do something like this.
Mm-hmm.
Like even if you're like, but I'm not involved in anything spiritual. You
Mm-hmm.
build your own record.
Mm-hmm.
And you could read other people's records, but
Mm-hmm.
definitely read your own record. There's a
Mm-hmm.
really book called How to Read the Akashic Records by Linda
Mm-hmm.
Howe, and she just tells you how to do it.
Hey, Eric, can you say that name again? You might have cut out there right when you said that, the name of the book.
How to Read the Akashic Records by Linda Howe,
Ah,
Ho.
mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Is that the same Linda Howe that's like involved with UF, like aliens?
I don't know.
There's a woman named Linda Howe who was like a reporter many years ago,
Huh.
did all this research on like alien abductions and the cattle mutilations and all that stuff. Anyway, she's a big
Sounds right.
UFO. I wonder if that's the same person.
She runs like the Akashic Records in, like she has her own Akashic Records thing, and
Mm-hmm.
he's the one that came. She got the download of the prayer that I
Mm-hmm.
use, so that comes from that.
Mm-hmm.
It was like 3 days before 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
She got this download of this prayer,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the prayer that I like. I've used other prayers, and we haven't talked. We don't need to talk about this, but it took me to other parts of the records,
Oh,
so completely different kinds of readings.
you were like in the bathroom or something of the
Right, I was in
Akashic Records library.
the back room of the record. Her prayer, she says, it takes you to the heart of the records, which I really feel like is true.
Hmm.
I have the readings are much more direct, and I get clearer information.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, if a person wants to read that book, she tells you exactly how to do it. So I always like to tell people anyone can read the records. Like
Mm-hmm.
anyone can be psychic. Like it really, really is like learn how to do it. Some people have a more natural sort of
Mm-hmm.
attunement propensity towards it,
Right.
but anyone could do this. So I
Mm-hmm.
really suggest people like pick up that book
Cool.
and try to do it on their own.
Can
Yeah.
you can we end by saying that prayer?
Oh, sure.
Or that open up a dimensional crack or something?
Well, I'll have to close it when we're done.
Okay, do
Uh,
that.
so I'm gonna read it as if I was doing my own records,
Uh-huh.
because I have to put a name in it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have to, but I'm gonna say the word myself. So
Okay.
I don't want to open anybody else's record. Um, I tried to open my dog's records. It's really hard. They like don't want you to do it.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Huh.
they're stubborn or something, spiritually
Maybe
stubborn.
maybe you didn't know his like real name.
Well, it's weird you said that because I actually I got like a psychic download of my dog's prior name,
Mm.
and I called him it and he started shaking.
Oh.
So that was weird. Anyway, okay.
A topic for another podcast.
Um yeah, I don't know what topic that would be, but this is what the prayer says. It says, and so we do acknowledge the forces of light, asking for guidance, direction, and courage to know the truth as it is revealed for our highest good and the highest good of everyone connected to us. O Holy Spirit of God, protect me from all forms of self-centeredness and direct my attention to the work at hand. Help me to know myself in the light of the Akashic Records, to see myself through the eyes of the Lords of the Records, and enable me to share the wisdom and compassion that the masters, teachers, and loved ones of me have for me. And then you say, the records are now open.
Mm. Yeah, I can feel
Yeah,
it has an effect on me. My heart, it touches my heart for sure.
really?
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Yeah, now I feel like I'm floating. So then I'll
Mm-hmm.
I'll read the closing prayer.
Okay. All right.
I don't have to feel. It says, I would like to thank the masters, teachers, and loved ones for their love and compassion. I would like to thank the Lords of the Akashic Records for their point of view. And I would like to thank the Holy Spirit of Light for all knowledge and healing. The records are now closed. Amen. The records are now closed. Amen. The records are now closed. Amen. It's funny.
Nice.
As I was reading it, I just heard like this voice that was like, "You're doing a great job."
Aw.
Yeah, so that was nice. Anyway,
Nice.
yeah, this is the book. It's really,
Oh, hold it up there
yeah.
so we can see it. Nice. By Linda Howe. Cool.
I don't think it's the alien one.
I don't know. Well, thanks, Eri. This has been a really great conversation. I
Thanks.
really appreciate you, and I appreciate the work that you're doing. And so, again, remind people how they might be able to get a hold of you.
Yeah, the best way to get a hold of me is through my website. It's EriGaeta. And if anybody, is hearing this between September 27th and October 18th, I'm giving a discount on 1 hour readings. You contact me during Mercury retrograde, which is
Hmm.
right now.
Right. Nice. Well, thanks, Eri. Yeah, so uh, again, if anyone finds this video useful, please subscribe to my channel, hit that like button, and pass it along to anyone who might be interested. And remember, if you feel like checking out my book, go to biosoulintegration.com and you can get a little discount there. And also read the first chapter for free. You can get the first chapter for free if you're interested. So thanks for watching this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video, and I look forward to helping you express more life. Have a great day.